When you think of the dodo, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably a fat, goofy-looking bird that was famous just for being extinct, right? Well, what if I told you that almost everything you think you know about the dodo is actually wrong? Let's dig in and find out the true story behind this famous bird.
Okay, so just take a look at this. On one side, you've got the dodo we all recognize from cartoons and stories. But on the other side, that's the bird that science tells us really existed. Taller, thinner, and a lot more agile. The difference is night and day, really.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the myth, then uncover the dodo's real identity as a giant pigeon. We'll see how its island paradise was lost, explore its weird fame after it disappeared, and finally look at the mind-blowing science that might actually bring it back.
All right, first up, the dodo we all think we know. So where did we even get this picture in our heads of a clumsy, overweight bird?
You know, this image isn't really based on science at all. It mostly comes from old paintings from the 1600s. An artist named Roland Savary painted them, but he was likely looking at captive dodos that had been seriously overfed. Then, much later, a little book you might have heard of, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, made that chubby, clumsy image super famous.
Okay, enough with the myths. Let's get into the actual science, because it tells a totally different story. It's time to meet the real dodo.
So picture this. It's 1598. Dutch sailors land on the island of Mauritius, and they see this strange bird they've never seen before. They ended up calling it walgvogel, which means disgusting bird. But here's the thing. It wasn't because it tasted awful. It's just that the meat was really tough, and the longer you cooked it, the tougher it got.
So after hundreds of years of confusion, modern DNA analysis finally gave us the answer. And you might want to sit down for this. The dodo wasn't some weird, one-of-a-kind creature. It was, believe it or not, a giant pigeon that couldn't fly.
And this is how we know for sure. Scientists looked at the dodo's DNA and pieced together its family tree. Its closest living relative today is the Nicobar pigeon from Southeast Asia. And its absolute closest relative of all time? That was another flightless bird called the Rodriguez solitaire, which also went extinct from an island right nearby.
That family tree helps us solve a big puzzle. How did a pigeon get all the way out to a remote island? Well, the best guess is called the stepping stone hypothesis. Basically, its ancestors, which could fly, hopped from island to island across the ocean. When they finally got to Mauritius, they found a paradise with no predators. So, they didn't need to fly anymore. And over a very long time, they evolved into the big, ground-walking bird we know as the dodo.
So the dodo was perfectly built for its island home. It was living the good life. But that paradise was about to get turned upside down. Really, really fast.
I mean, for thousands of years, the dodo was doing great. It was a tough bird. It survived droughts, volcanic eruptions, all sorts of things. It just ate fruit, nested on the ground, and laid a single egg. And in a world with no predators, that slow and steady plan worked perfectly. But that single egg, just sitting there on the ground, that was about to become a huge problem.
So what happened? It was the perfect storm of bad luck. Yeah, sailors hunted them, but that wasn't the real killer. The main problem was what came with the sailors on their ships, animals like rats, pigs, and monkeys. These new animals had never been on the island before, and they found an easy meal: dodo eggs, completely defenseless on the ground.
And the end came shockingly fast. Humans first laid eyes on the dodo in 1598. The very last confirmed sighting was just 64 years later, in 1662. By about 1690, less than 100 years after people showed up, the dodo was gone forever.
But here's a weird twist. The dodo wasn't that famous when it was alive. It became a superstar after it went extinct. And that's when all the myths about it really took off.
It's so famous for being extinct that we have the saying, dead as a dodo, right? It means something is completely gone for good. But the phrase kind of carries this wrong idea with it, that the dodo was just destined to disappear because it was stupid or just not fit to survive. This also led to one of the coolest scientific stories that turned out to be a myth. It was called the dodo tree. The idea was that a certain tree's seeds couldn't sprout unless a dodo ate them first. It's a great story about how nature is all connected. But as cool as it sounds, it's just not true. The tree is doing fine, and its seeds don't need any help from a dodo.
So that brings us right up to today. We're moving from the past into some really futuristic science, and it brings up a huge, huge question.
Get this, a company called Colossal Biosciences announced that it's going to try to bring the dodo back from extinction.
Now, we're not talking about a perfect clone like in the movies. It would be more of a hybrid, a dodo-like bird created with some very advanced genetic engineering. So how on earth would this work? Well, the plan is to take the dodo's DNA and compare it to the Nicobar pigeons. Then they'll use gene editing to change the pigeon's cells to include key dodo traits. The really clever part is they can turn these edited cells into the building blocks for sperm and eggs. Then they inject those into a surrogate mom, like a normal chicken, and she would lay an egg that would hatch into a new dodo-like bird.
And this isn't just some sci-fi idea. The project has already raised $150 million. That's a ton of money, and it's started a really big debate. With so many animals in danger right now, is this really the best way to spend all that cash?
And that's really the heart of the debate. On one side, people say we have a duty to right our past wrongs, and the tech we develop could help save animals that are alive today. But on the other side, people argue that money should go to protecting the animals we haven't lost yet. They worry about whether it's fair to the new bird and if humans are playing God. So it leaves us with one final powerful question. We know we caused the dodo's extinction, but does that mean we should be the ones to bring it back?